Welcome to the Popcorn Talk Network, for the online broadcast network that features movie discussion, news, and interviews. Press 1. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. In a world where action movies are constantly exploding at the box office, our heroes take on the monumental task of dissecting and analyzing all aspects of action movies to truly understand what it takes to make a great action film. Ben Bateman, Andrew Ghai, in a Popcorn Talk Network exclusive. This is Action Movie Anatomy.
Boom! Welcome to the show! Welcome, guys! You are in the brand new studio with us on the Popcorn Talk Network. This is the first one. It's the first show in the brand new studio. It probably looks kind of similar to you, as we have logos that say Popcorn Talk and similar looking mics. But to us, this is incredibly exciting, and if you can hear it in my voice and see it on my face, you can see how stoked I am to be here doing this show, Action Movie Anatomy, on the Popcorn Talk Network, the online movie network dedicated to talking movies and all things movie related. I am your host, Ben Bateman, joined today by my wonderfully dressed co-host with you're like a yellow jacket today. You look like a bumblebee. Andrew Ghai.
They don't make that sound.
Yeah, it is. I know what you.
We're here in this new place. I'm excited, man. It looks great. It sounds nice. Got a little echo going on.
Yeah, we have a brick. We're like I feel like we're on Saturday Night Live or something. The brick backdrop.
Do I have to do my monologue?
No.
I've prepared a monologue.
Please don't do that. And guys, we have a very special guest today. Very special guest in from Seattle, Washington, Mr. Damon Leachman, who is...
How do you guys know each other again?
He's my older brother.
We're related.
Your brother.
This is the man that gave me a VHS tape copy of Point Break when I was 12 years old as a present.
Guilty.
And I was hooked, and I sit before you today doing Action Movie Anatomy because of that. I think I largely credit that moment. So
the man, the legend, Damon.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Right.
Yeah.
So here we are to talk about The Matrix, 1999, classic, one of the iconic action movies of all time.
Absolutely.
I mean, by no exaggeration, classic.
This movie came out when I was in 5th grade. I was in Mrs. Duncan's class, and I went in the next day, and there was like this group of like 8 of my friends surrounding me as I just talked to them about this movie, trying to explain it to them and like how blown my mind was. And again, I'm in 5th grade. I'm like 12 years old. I was like, this could be real. This could totally be. We could be in the Matrix. Like, this is a real thing. I don't think we are.
No, we are not in the Matrix.
I don't know.
Thought-provoking, though, for sure.
Well, especially as a 10-year-old. I mean,
yeah.
It was remarkable. Like, we talked about this sometimes growing up in movies, because there's this impressionable age that you are between, I think, 10 and 14, where you're old enough to see movies that are, like, sort of rated R or, like, adult and enjoy them. But you're not quite old enough to have an opinion on, like, art house movies that really are making an impact on the whole world. So... But in those years, say like 10 to 14 or 10 to 15, you very much need cool things to talk to your friends about in middle school, because negativity is the easiest thing to do. You just talk shit about things.
This movie epitomizes cool.
It was
in '99. It was the coolest fucking thing out there.
Right. Like if you wanted to go to school and like talk about something that everybody thought was cool, you could talk about The Matrix, or if you were listening to like some song on the soundtrack. Right. You know what I mean? That was cool. Everything about The Matrix was just really, really cool.
Yeah. Sunglasses became popular. Trench coats became popular until a year or a month later, unfortunately, with Columbine.
Right. Which was obviously an unfortunate thing to have happen.
Right. But it was just like. This was the thing. This was the greatest thing.
Right. Yeah, it was incredible. So before we just start ranting about The Matrix, we do action movies on the show, guys. We do action movies that adhere to 4 rules, aside from being made 1981 or later, which is not really a rule. It's just kind of like a general guideline. But we have 4 rules. Rule number 1 is that the hero always plays by his own rules. Rule number 2 is that the hero and the villain are always the smartest people or beings or dinosaurs or aliens or whatever they are in the room. Rule number 3 is that the movie is driven by a police, military, or political figure. Interesting. I think this one breaks that rule. And rule number 4, there's at least one explosion. He's in no way police, military, or political.
He is part of an underground...
No, not even a little bit.
No, not at all.
And Neo, he does play by his own rules. In the
Absolutely.
End. In the end.
And him and Smith are definitely the smartest people in the room.
Yeah.
The machines are like the new sort of quasi-military.
Yeah, and they're kind of like
they run the world.
They're like a militia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. Sometimes we break the rules, guys. It's not a big deal.
It's a big deal to me.
So we are going to get into this. We're going to play the trailer right now for you guys, which is a pretty good trailer overall.
It's a good trailer.
Except for one thing. You guys will see like 45 seconds into it, it's going to be talking, and it's going to be like, You wake up. You go to work.
You live
you
your
read
life.
the newspaper. As a slave! Exclamation point!
Yeah.
It was just like pretty hilarious.
Really? This is okay.
Yeah, so it's Johnny Wick. Oh, here we go. So it's playing for you guys. So this is, we've done recently Gladiator and The Bourne Identity, both of which were movies that around the same time period made the same kind of impact.
Right, but this was different. Like,
Well-
even though I saw Gladiator the year after, or I
Yeah.
guess it was probably like closer to 2 years, and I was like, oh my god, this is the greatest movie I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It wasn't in this type of context.
Yeah, they were awesome. What I was going to say is
Go
that
to parties.
all three trailers are not as good as today's trailers.
Yeah.
But this one is pretty good, except that it definitely reminds me of The Bourne Identity, like when it's like, he's danger in as a slave.
Have you ever had a dream, Neo?
Really bad.
So it's
Yeah,
absurd.
it's really bad.
Really bad.
But aside from that, it's like pretty
What if
sweet.
you were unable to wake from
Yeah, they show the shot of his mouth being
would you
so
know the
closed,
difference
which is
between the
like
dream
pretty terrifying if you don't know what's going on. It's
I saw the storyboards because what happened was after they did the script, they made like 500 storyboards
Yeah.
for the movie for like all
is
the
the
action
world
scenes and like specific scenes and shots they really wanted. The storyboard looked like Two-Face, like the side of Two-Face's mouth in The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
It kind of looked like that. It's super creepy. It's not quite as creepy in the movie, but it definitely scared me as a kid.
Yeah, there's a lot about this movie. There's a lot about this movie that was super memorable that shouldn't have even been memorable. Like, for instance, I was thinking this morning, I was trying to think of like how visual the movie is. Cypher eating that steak.
It's one of my favorite parts of the whole
It's
movie.
super memorable. Like
I don't know why.
The steak looks really delicious.
Yeah, it's like super
look good.
rare.
Yeah, it's
Bloody.
It's
The way
so
he
funny that it
cuts
stands
it,
out.
like looks at it,
Yeah.
and then like the way he chews, it's so weird.
It's crazy how that worked. My brother actually this morning was referencing. He was like, I wonder if Nolan
I've seen an
borrowed
angel
some
punch
like the
through a
visual
concrete
iconography of this
wall.
movie for
Men
Dark
have
Knight.
emptied
It does
entire
have
clips of them and hit
the
them
lighting,
with
right?
air.
Well, the city, the
Everyone
rain,
was
the
what an
dark.
angel has died.
Yeah.
Where
Which
they
is
a lot
funny
of it.
because a lot of people talk about how this movie stole from Dark City, which they actually used the set, the
sunset.
rooftop set.
To shoot the opening scene of the Trinity,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
No one has ever done anything
Yeah, you
like
gotta
this.
love the strapless sunglasses.
Yeah.
How do they stay on?
You trying to tell
It's so like
that I can dodge bullets?
never have I imagined
No.
or
Trying
I
to
feel like
tell
there's
you
like something
when
very
you're
relevant
ready.
to the fact that this movie
You won't have to.
is so obsessed with aesthetics, even though like they're irrelevant. In the Matrix, like why would he have to have like sunglasses just stuck on his face? Why would they have to wear trench coats? Why would any of this be necessary? Like why would they need to wear all black and have like vinyl pants?
to look sweet.
Yeah.
Always.
Like they just get to look however they want, right?
Yeah, that's their image of themselves.
It's funny.
They're cool.
Yeah, like the one chick wears white for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, Switch.
Not like this.
Not like this.
Not like this.
Not
Yeah.
like this. Which is interesting because the reason her name was Switch was she was originally supposed to be one character that was androgynous, that was a female in the real world and a male in the Matrix.
Interesting.
She is very mannish for sure.
She is, yeah, definitely. Super,
Interesting.
Super
Butch.
hot. Wait.
So we are going to get into the show here, guys, with our thesis statements and our favorite lines and whatnot and all that we share. There's a couple things I want to point out. The first one is that if you are watching this or listening to this on iTunes, please go and rate us on iTunes. Give us ratings, reviews, etc., etc. It helps us keep high in the standings on their tracking for their podcasts and whatnot, so more people can find out about the show. We obviously provide content for free, and we would like to continue to provide content for free, and it is easy to do if we get ratings. We're giving away Action Movie Anatomy mugs. We keep talking about this. We don't have them yet. We've given 2 away in theory.
There's no mugs.
There is no mug.
We will be announcing at the end of the show another one of our wonderful fans that has gone to the iTunes and written us a really nice review that we will be giving a mug to. So the deal with that is that we have 14 reviews right now. If we get to 20, we'll be increasing the number of mugs we're giving away once the mugs come in, which is soon. And we have 6 more to get to until we start increasing that number. So please go and find us and rate us and review us. Also check out the other shows on Popcorn Talk. Action Movie Anatomy has a sister podcast called Anatomy of a Movie, which is basically just the regular version of our show.
They cover whatever they want.
They cover whatever movies come out on Fridays. And so that is a thing that'll be happening that you should check out. And lastly, about The Matrix specifically, this is a movie that has a couple of things associated with it that are, I don't want to say controversial, but the source material.
No, it's not controversial. It's just we do this show every week, and we have a very specific outline that we stick to, and there's a lot of things that we can talk about this movie that we don't need to, because that's not our show.
Right. Basically, this is a movie that exists in this like mythology of science fiction, we'll just call it that. And there's a huge amount of source material that this is accused of being very derivative of, and we don't really want to get into that because we don't know that much about it, and there's people that know far more than us. That's just a different show. And the other thing is that there is one of the Wachowskis, formerly the Wachowski brothers, there's a whole storyline with a sex change operation that happened, and
From Larry going to Lana.
And that's just something else, again, it's like a whole other story that just isn't really about this movie, so we're just not going to discuss it. So if anybody's watching this and wondering why we're not, that's the reason. We're going to stick to The Matrix, the movie The Matrix, and that's what this is about. So let's get into thesis statements, where each of us reveals what we believe to be our strongest opinion on the movie. This should be rooted in fact, and if you guys have one that you want to share with us, leave it in the comments or tweet at us while we're doing this. You can find me at Ben Bateman Media on Twitter.
At Andrew Ghai on Twitter.
And Damon is a creature of the night. So
Nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
Hashtag Creature of the Night.
Hashtag Creature of the Night. So what do you have for thesis statements on The Matrix? What do you think?
I mean, I have two. Do you want to go first?
Sure, I can go if you want.
Yeah, guys go first.
Jump in.
Little hard to come up with something great, but I guess my thesis statement would be more that it was just a groundbreaking movie as far as stunt and action and just that was, we talked about that kind of cyberpunk cool thing.
Absolutely.
Because, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon came out 2 years later, and this whole idea of using wires for stunts, I don't think had really been introduced as far as mainstream action movies.
In America, for sure.
In America,
I remember walking out of it and thinking how cool it was, all these flips and things they would do and a lot of that stuff. So, I think it was ahead of its time that way, that, this is before all these superhero movies.
Sure.
And all this stuff became commonplace. But
yeah, absolutely. I mean, this movie was absolutely groundbreaking in many ways. Martial arts, bullet time, just like the story, the depth of that story.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I think that's another thing that's when we just talked about the source material. It's fascinating that so many people have criticized this movie of sort of plagiarism or being derivative, because in any genre, if you're trying to come up with something innovative, you just draw inspiration from things. I mean, it's a thing that happens.
Right.
And especially in a genre like science fiction literature, where there's just there's so many ideas and so many people have so many cool ideas. It's like people always say, it doesn't matter who came up with it, it matters who wins with it.
Right, or who uses it better. I mean, Quentin Tarantino is famous for doing that.
Yeah.
If you're a horror director, you're going to watch Kubrick. If you like sci-fi, you're going to watch James Cameron.
Yeah.
You're going to take something from them at some point.
Absolutely.
There's nothing bad about that.
Yeah, so I think it is interesting to talk about. And then the other thing was X-Men came out the following year, I believe. Mm-hmm. And it's funny to think that X-Men, the first one, gets credited all the time as being the original of the new generation of superhero movies, because it's the one that introduced the Marvel Universe started to become popularized, and they started cranking them out.
Right.
15 years later, here we are, and that's
Ant-Man.
the common action movie is a superhero movie. But you can credit The Matrix, I think, almost as much. Just the kind of the stunts and the visuals, a lot of the stuff that they do in this movie, it's the kind of stuff that you end up seeing in superhero movies.
Well, it's interesting because at this time when we watch movies, and I know that we don't really do fighting movies a lot on the show, and we talk about doing The Raid and we talk about doing Warrior, things like that, but prior to this, we commonly talk about the Harrison Fords, the Nick Cages, in those movies when they would fight Dutch. It's just heavy-handed punching. You punch me, I punch you. We punch harder, we wrestle. This was when you saw, no. There's sophisticated martial arts that need to be used. And it's much more entertaining to watch. It's like a dance.
Yeah, it is. And that's what we talked about with Born Identity. They're within a couple years of each other.
Absolutely.
It's the same kind of thing.
That's when you started seeing your hero be like a trained fighter with their hands and feet, not just guns and heavy punches.
Sure. Yeah, extremely articulate.
The first scene in the dojo when they're
so sweet.
wearing it does a little nose thing.
Yeah, steals that from Mr. Bruce Lee.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I mean that's a great fist bump moment.
All right, so I've got two. I think my first one is that in hindsight, because this is definitely in hindsight, because as a kid when the second Matrix came out, I was absolutely pumped. I was very excited.
Very bad
as
movie.
was everyone else, because it made a tremendous amount of money.
Yeah.
For me, in hindsight, this becoming a franchise is one of the biggest missteps in film history.
Yeah, it definitely tarnishes the good name.
I know that people talk about the first 3 Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
And then they talk about the second 3 Star Wars movies. And that was terrible.
Right.
It was horrible for the franchise. But it felt like you could come back from it. Whereas with The Matrix, you're not going to remake the whole franchise. You're not going to make 3 more Matrix movies.
No.
You may make another Matrix someday. I hope they don't.
Yeah.
But
They
I
probably
really
will.
wish that this was just a solo movie, and it would have went down as probably the greatest sci-fi action movie.
Carrie-Anne Moss talked a little bit about a Matrix reboot earlier this year in an interview, actually.
Really?
Yeah, a little bit. She wasn't like completely
Yeah.
opposed to it in the interview.
And that kind of goes into my second thesis, which is that despite the massive success of this franchise monetarily, and especially the first
Yeah.
movie, this did not help any of the actors' careers other than Hugo Weaving.
Yeah. And he even ended up in sort of a niche career. He ended up with sort of like a sci-fi, like character-y.
Fantasy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
his voice, right, is almost
voice,
the,
yeah, I mean,
the
you got-
thing he's known for.
Yeah.
You got
This point.
Megatron, you got, I can't remember his name
V
in
for
Lord of the
Vendetta,
Rings.
yeah.
Yeah, V for Vendetta.
Yeah.
Elrond and
Elrond, that's what it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are my 2.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I went with one a little more rooted in the casting, and it was when we started talking about recast, and I was thinking about The Matrix and what about it, sort of, because we were explaining. I was explaining to someone that just what about this movie was so impactful, and then looking back on it, like how it feels to me when I think about it. And Keanu Reeves and his voice, the sound of his voice, the delivery of his lines, it's like as responsible for how this movie feels as any other part of it,
Absolutely.
and it's not. I don't want to say it's not good because it is good.
It's perfect.
But it's like bad, but it's great in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? Like
So bad it's good.
He's like
Mark-
he's like a bad actor, but he's always been kind of a bad actor.
You saying I can dodge bullets?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's perfect, and I think he's the most perfectly cast action hero of all time. The only person that I can think of that would really rival him would be like Arnold in T2.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's basically. But again, that's not even really fair because he has so few lines.
Right, but then also I've always thought that this, like, Keanu being cast as Neo in The Matrix is one of the greatest casts of all time.
All time.
Arnold in T2, Mark Wahlberg in Boogie Nights. Like, these are people that are placed in the perfect position to just kind of be themselves.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
Yeah,
And this
Wahlberg.
is probably the greatest action one that's been done.
Yeah, where Wahlberg is Dirk Diggler. Classic.
It's great.
that is a good one.
We've discussed doing Boogie Nights on this show.
Yeah,
we
we
were
just want to.
we were like, if we can get 7 of you to justify it as an action movie, we'll do it. Like,
Explosion? No explosions?
There's nothing. There's no
not
action.
even remotely an action.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah, so that's what I got. Do you guys want to share your fist pump moments really quickly before we get into star breakdowns? Fist pump moments for anybody who's watching that is not aware of what a fist pump moment is. We define it as that moment where you're sitting and you're watching the movie. Perhaps you're on your couch. Maybe you've had a drink. I don't know. It's late at night. Something awesome happens, whether it's like the score or a one-liner or a big punch or an explosion. Anything. It literally can be anything. It can be a look from a mother to her daughter in the movie. I don't know if that gets it for you.
The hell are you watching when you're drinking at night?
But something awesome happens, and you just like look around, and you're like, "Are you seeing this?
Yeah.
Is anybody else seeing this right now?" It's like, this is so good. I get to watch the rest of this movie right now. That's a fist bump moment for us.
There are so many. It's
a lot of them.
in this movie.
Yeah,
I think I can
substantial.
I can think of 4 off the top of my head right now.
Well, give us one right now.
okay.
one.
I'm gonna give you 3. I'm gonna give you 2.
Okay.
Maybe I'll give you 6. The first one is it's when they're in the dojo.
Yeah.
And Mouse runs around. It's like Morpheus
Just
fighting
fight
Neo.
Neo.
Morpheus
Yeah,
fighting
yeah,
Neo.
that's a good-
And
that's a
whenever
good,
like the
yeah.
music's like, you know, that's so sweet.
I think it's like a song by it's like Prodigy playing.
yeah, it sounds like Prodigy or
right.
something like that.
Firestarter or something like one of those
It's probably Prodigy, yeah.
we call it back then. We called it techno. Like now it's like EDM. It's like,
Yeah.
it's just like that's what it would be called.
Rave music, man.
Yeah. Back then it was like I don't even think it was called house yet.
No, it was techno.
It was techno.
Yeah.
That's what we all called it.
Yeah, I love techno.
Yeah, techno. Paul Oakenfield and Paul Van Dyke or Steve Oakenfield. I can't
Did you say
remember.
Paul Van Dyke?
I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
just.
Maybe move right along.
Let's move right along.
Past that.
There's a time I knew.
There's a little gap in knowledge there.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the other one is it's the end of Agent Smith's speech to Morpheus. He's like,
Just before the.
affected by
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I need the codes, and then you hear the like that metallic banging or clinking.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to the lobby scene,
Yeah.
and they walk in, and they're just they have like an arsenal with them.
Yeah.
And he's like, I need you to remove your pockets over to give it. Holy shit! And then
Back up. We need back up.
That's
The guy's accent. Yeah.
That's probably that may be my fist pump moment.
Yeah.
just the lobby scene.
When he walks through the metal detector and it goes off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like so iconic. It's crazy too.
Awesome.
We mentioned, and we don't want to harp on this obviously because it's very like melancholy. But there was when Columbine happened. It was about a month after
It was
this
literally
movie
a month
came
after
out.
it came out.
And there was a lot of reference to something called the Trenchcoat Mafia in like the newspaper at the time, which was I think and I don't know enough about it to really speak on the subject, but it was essentially like a sort of an online or like underground like sort of subculture. But I think more was made of it than needed to be because of this movie. I think it was just people that were very evil and did something horrible. But it is interesting when you think about when this movie came out and just sort of that scene in particular is so iconic as a gun scene in a movie.
It's probably the greatest gun battle scene ever.
Like it's just
great, yeah.
It's the single scene in the movie that comes to mind, like, and then we'll talk about it when we get to ultimate action scenes, but that's later. But it's definitely the single scene in the movie that is like, as a kid when I came out of the theater, that was the thing I remember.
You're like, he did a cartwheel, picked up a shotgun, and shot a guy, like balancing on one hand.
It looks
so cool.
Great. It still looks great.
It looks amazing. And it's because it was them doing it on wires over and over and over. It took them like 10 days to shoot that scene, or 10 weeks. I can't remember. It was incredibly long.
Yeah, I think
right.
kind of hurt himself filming it.
Well, he hurt himself filming, but he also started filming. He started to get paralysis in his legs due to like a pinch, something wrong.
It was a fusion. It was a spine fusion surgery that he had for his vertebrae, I think, and he was healing, but he wanted to start training early, and he went a little too hard. And I think he hurt himself in that scene. Yeah. So they had to come back and finish it later.
Yeah, they had to come back and do the dojo scene again too, because he couldn't do the. Because the biggest thing with him was that he couldn't do kicks. Because like I said, he was paralysis in the legs.
Yeah. So
like the triple kick in the dojo scene.
Yeah.
They had to come back to that like a couple weeks later, and he did it perfectly.
Yeah, he doesn't kick that much in the movie for that reason.
Yeah, exactly.
So is that you guys both get a fist bump in there?
Yeah. Well, that was my. But the other one would be when they're on the ship and they're like, "You're gonna pull the plug on Morpheus."
Right.
And he's like, "No, I'm going in."
That's totally mine.
That's
incredible.
Yeah.
That's epic. I mean, any part of that whole scene where.
Yeah, because I like when he says that, and then I also like at the end of it when he tells Trinity that she can't go in, and she, as the ranking officer on this ship, you can get to hell with it, or that's because you can go to hell because you're not going anywhere else. That's probably my fist bump moment.
Gets you real fired up.
Yeah, well, because like for me, often the moments for me that are the biggest fist bump moments are those dramatic speeches and those like deliveries. It's like kind of in Return of the Jedi, I always say like the scene that always comes to mind for me is when he throws down the lightsaber and he's like, "No, I want to be a Jedi like my father." That part, that always gives me goosebumps.
I just got chills. I remember seeing that. Yeah, it was just...
So it's the same kind of thing for me. Anyway, if any of you guys have anything that's even remotely as nerdy as what we just did, talking about our Star Wars thing,
then we should hang out.
If you want to tweet at us or share us comments, please do. We would love to know what you guys think. So let's get into star profiles, guys. We have some interesting ones here.
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves, first thing I notice, he has made so many bad movies.
Oh, it's an incredible amount.
Crap.
Except for the day the Earth stood still.
Yeah. Appalling. So like, okay, we go here, Speed, 1994, right? Yeah. Chain Reaction, 1996. Feeling Minnesota, 1996. Devil's Advocate, 97.
Which actually, personal
Devil's Advocate?
fan of Devil's Advocate.
Actually, like Devil's Advocate. He's
certainly made some good movies. I'm not gonna say he's made all bad movies, but also like hidden in here, I believe was also Johnny Mnemonic, Following Speed.
Yeah, there was another like Feeling Minnesota. Oh, you said that.
The
Walk in the
cyberpunk
Clouds
stuff they tried to.
I think it's 95, and then I believe we also have like The Day I Committed Suicide or something like that, or something like a movie I've never seen
heard of.
So there's like 7 movies in the middle here. So if you look at Keanu's career, I think the most interesting thing we can pull is that this is like the middle point, because a lot of America like was reintroduced to Keanu Reeves as a huge star when this movie came out,
like an action star.
1999,
not just
because in the mid 80s he had done River's Edge, which was very popular and I mean didn't make a lot of money, but it was a critical success.
Yeah.
And then you had in the mid 80s he was kind of popping up in movies here and there like Youngblood with Rob Lowe and Patrick Swayze, which I'm a fan of. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Yep.
That one really was. That was a big commercial hit.
Huge one.
Couple sequels,
that was his big thing.
or at least a sequel.
Yeah, and Excellent Adventure, Bogus Journey.
Yeah.
So what's really interesting is Point Break in '91, which is my all-time favorite movie. That's his first major action role, where
Johnny Utah.
He beefs up, he puts on some muscle, he runs around with a gun, he's a cop, all that. And so following that, he kind of did something similar where I don't have it in front of me here, but I know he made the sequel, Bogus Journey, and I believe he made like 1 or 2 other sort of like, like Much Ado About Nothing might have been in there, might have been a little later.
Yeah.
But it seems that what he's done is he makes a big action hit, and then he just kind of fades into obscurity making crappy rom-coms and like really unsuccessful sci-fi flicks.
Yeah.
It's the story of his whole career.
It's all he does.
The most successful thing that he's done recently is John Wick.
Which they're starting to do principal photography
on the second
really
one.
soon. Yeah.
Because everybody loved John Wick, because it's
Sequel.
awesome.
I didn't like it that much.
You didn't
Well,
like it?
We don't need to get into that.
Most people. So I think that's really funny if you look at all these movies. I mean, a lot of the stuff in the mid-90s I haven't seen. We forgot to mention Little Buddha pops up in there somewhere. I think that's like
grief.
maybe
Did we forget to, or did we just
choose
want
not
do
to.
that? Yeah,
It's like maybe
subconsciously.
95 maybe or something like that.
Yeah, you look at this.
It's a lot, but I think he probably got
works
pretty
a-
well compensated for a lot of these bad movies.
Oh, absolutely.
Just taking safe choice after safe choice.
Like
I'm
he made
sure.
a lot of money off The Replacements, I'm pretty sure, which was like a year after this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Replacement.
There's all these movies, like Hardball is another one.
Yep, Sweet
Got
November.
into some sports for sure.
Yeah, Sweet November, The Watcher.
Something's Gotta Give. It's just yeah.
Something's Gotta Give was actually that's
a good movie.
That's a big one that a lot of people saw. It was very
Doctor.
popular that he showed back up in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty funny with Keanu.
We have The Lake House, which is mine and Ben's favorite movie.
Wow.
Very good film. Very good.
Solid.
We often reenact scenes from it.
Did our man Bruce All I Do Is Win Berman produce that one?
Probably.
I think he maybe did. I think that's one of his few misses. Anyway, as far as Keanu Reeves goes, I do think it's fun. I listened to him on the Chris Hardwick podcast earlier this year, or last year maybe, he was promoting John Wick. And I was definitely struck by how sort of level-headed he sounds, how sort of down-to-earth he is.
Oh, he's super cool in interviews.
Seems like he'd be a very cool dude to meet and talk to.
Yeah, I watched a 30-minute behind the scenes or making of today.
Yeah.
And he's just a cool guy. Like he is Neo.
Yeah.
Like when he talks about it, he's like, and working with Larry and Andy is just
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
You know, like these guys are really cool guys. They
Yeah.
like basketball. I'm just like, oh, guys,
I really talk like this.
We Andrew and I recently kind of started to pitch this idea of kind of a action movie characters sort of up against each other type of show, and one of the questions in the thing we shot, which was Brian Mills from Taken versus John Wick, was who would be better at picking up a woman in a bar, and we each sort of had to do our argument for 30 seconds, and Andrew we had a sweet one with Liam Neeson.
I used his speech.
Yeah, exactly.
Like to pick up a girl.
I don't know how this date's going to end, but something like that, which is great. But as John Wick, I was like, when Keanu says John Wick, and it's I'm sorry to bother you, but you remind me of someone. Oh, who's that? My dead wife. I'm sorry. It's just
That's all I have to say.
It's just so weird and quiet.
He is, yeah.
I love Keanu Reeves. He's the fact that it's the Keanu energy is what makes the Matrix.
Yeah.
And it's
It's like that young, excited child.
would we argue that this is his greatest role?
It's funny because that was another one that might have been my
up
thesis
there.
statement, was to say that this is, for the leads in this movie,
Yeah.
it was the best movie all of them have been a part of. But I couldn't do it because I'm such a big Lord of the Rings fan, and I do love Memento.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
And Fishburne, a lot of people, Boys in the Hood for a lot of people is
Yeah.
super, super, super iconic.
So that's why I didn't say it, because
Yeah.
I don't think it's true, but this is definitely Keanu's best movie.
If we were going to do
I
just
would
a
agree.
speed round, if we could all agree on the speed round top 5 Keanu, you obviously get Point Break, Speed, Matrix 1.
Lake House, and then you throw...
Point Break, Speed, Matrix 1, Bill and Ted probably.
Yeah,
the first
Bill
one.
and Ted.
Super, super
Big
classic.
time. Solid.
John Wick?
Yeah,
I do
maybe.
I like Devil's Advocate. Pacino's great.
Yeah,
I
Pacino is great.
I
I'm
definitely
entertained.
prefer
A little too long, but
John Wick to Devil's Advocate. But River's Edge is very good. My Own Private Idaho is very good.
yeah, he did some stuff when he was younger that was a little more dramatic.
Real actor?
Before he
Yeah.
just started, the list I named.
Excuse
Yeah.
me.
But it's interesting. I think The Matrix for me, it would be up against Point Break and Speed as the actual. Those are the 3 movies that come
Those
to
were
mind
the
for
top
me.
3, clearly. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
believe so.
I think as much as Point Break is my favorite movie of all time, this is his greatest role because Jack Traven is recastable easily. Anybody could play Jack Traven
Absolutely.
from Speed, and I believe you could recast Johnny Utah, though I think they did a poor job of it with the remake.
I don't know. That's pretty iconic, Johnny Utah.
Johnny Utah,
No one else is going to deliver those lines.
Utah, get me too. You would have loved the Lethal Weapon episode. We just talked about Busey the whole time.
yeah.
It was. I was totally anybody who watched this knows how many times I said, "Officer Murtaugh, don't be foolish. Look at the hardware." Just it's just
so toothy.
So
his
good.
delivery.
He gets out of the car, and this is a repeat. Anybody who's watched this, you've already heard me just harp on this, but he gets out of the limo in the middle of the desert with the sweet aviators, huge teeth,
All
a
white.
deep white V-neck sweater with a maroon huge collar, and then basically hammer pants blowing in the wind.
Are his teeth whiter, or is his shirt whiter?
I don't
Yeah.
even know.
Probably the teeth.
We were literally watching, and it's a tense scene because Danny Glover has the grenade in his hand, and he gets out of the car, and I just burst out laughing
Yeah,
before he
it
even
was-
said anything.
It was incredible.
we have the higher ground. Riggs is gone. Anyway, so let's get into Laurence Fishburne.
This is really interesting.
Do you want to go? Please go ahead.
No.
Fishburne.
I feel like for Fishburne, he was kind of at the peak of his career right here.
Yeah, but what a weird career. Like,
Yeah.
it's funny that like it's Matrix. Morpheus is his most iconic role by a mile.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like Event Horizon is a very it's a cult classic horror movie, and like Othello, which I've never seen. I have seen Hoodlum. It's fine. It's not
Weird. That movie scared the crap out of me when I was a kid because there's like a scene I think where they like cut off a guy's balls and they present them on a table. And as a kid, I was just like,
That's horrifying.
I can't do this.
Do you see them?
Yeah, you see them.
Don't remember that.
I do.
Has he been the lead in anything? Fishburne?
Hoodlum, he was a lead in.
Yeah,
Like the lead, like the
not like a leading
the main
man.
actor, because he doesn't really
doesn't-
go
he's
front and
not
center
that
a lot.
guy.
So it's hard to say if this was the top of his career as a sort of a supporter or
Bankable. Yeah, I mean, because what did he follow Matrix with, really? Like
Mystic River.
Yeah.
bit parts though.
Yeah.
5, 6
not
years
even
later.
anywhere.
I mean, literally, if you go through and you look, it's like Mystic River, Assault on Precinct 13, Kiss
Yeah.
Kiss Bang Bang.
Oh, yeah.
She's a voice.
But
Mission
you can't
Impossible
even-
3. Yeah, none of them. He's
I don't remember his role even in.
Kiss Kiss? I think he's the narrator.
I mean, in
Yeah,
any of
he is.
those, like I can hardly remember what he is.
Yeah, he's much more of a character actor.
It's forgettable, yeah.
He's one of those guys where, like this, I mean, it should be evidenced how iconic of a role this is when, in a huge miss, by the way, a year or two ago in the Super Bowl, somebody did a commercial with him reprising his role as Morpheus.
They did,
Car
yeah.
commercial for Hyundai, I want to say.
Can't remember. Yeah, he's
think
in
it
the
was
backseat.
Hyundai.
Hyundai.
Yeah, and he like shows up like dressed as Morpheus. Clearly like a
yeah,
solid
that
12 to
was
15
so-
pounds heavier. Like just like kind of like squeezing into the jacket. But looking, I mean, this is 13 years later, and it's not exactly like when he was Morpheus the first time. He was
Right.
like 20 years old. So,
That's not true.
but the fact that they made that commercial so many years later should speak volumes about how memorable the character it was.
right, because
Yeah.
everyone knew who he was.
He's not going to reprise the father in Boys in the Hood. In
No,
a
this
commercial.
is the pinnacle. I would agree.
Yeah.
This is.
It's all downhill from
It really
Morpheus.
is all downhill, unfortunately, because he's great. He does a very good job. But again,
yeah.
I don't think I would be interested in watching a movie like you said where he's the lead character in it.
Do you think
Yeah.
the fact that so
Let me interrupt you guys real quick. It does look like he did win Best Actor in a Leading Role for What's Love Got to Do with It?
in what year?
Really?
1994.
Wow.
You won an Academy Award?
Best Actor in a Leading Role. He was nominated.
Oh, okay.
Was it,
Fishburne was.
he in and the band played on? Is that him as well? Is it like 90,
HBO
That
miniseries.
one I don't know.
91 or something like that?
Take a look. Wow, he was nominated for Best Actor.
Wow. All right. Sorry,
I mean,
Lawrence.
well,
no,
that
it's not
doesn't-
that he's a bad actor.
No,
that's,
no,
that's
yeah.
not what we're saying.
That
at all.
doesn't even really surprise me that he would get the nomination. It almost is like more of the reason that he would probably end up in The Matrix is because he's got the pedigree to be in a movie this
Yeah,
big.
he's a good actor,
He's
no
got the
doubt.
chops for sure.
But in terms of like memorable or iconic, that's sort of what we're getting at. And but anyway, we digress. So let's kind of get into the production on this movie. Some of the people involved. So you had formerly when they made this movie, they were the Wachowski brothers.
Yes.
Right.
It was Andy and Laurence, who is now known as Lana. They basically Assassins, the old Stallone movie,
Right.
with Antonio Banderas.
Banderas.
They pitched the script. They got a 3-picture deal. This was the third movie, their second film, Bound. Have you ever seen The Bound?
I've seen Bound.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen Bound, but
Bound's
that-
pretty interesting actually.
That's what people say. Yeah,
That was the one that when they did Bound, Fox was finally like, okay, fine, we'll give you the money, or we'll greenlight you guys as directors for this movie.
Yeah, and because Bound was good and they directed it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they pushed to be able to direct The Matrix, and they were able to. So The Matrix, and this is where we'll kind of jump in just a little, because they both wrote and directed The Matrix.
Right.
And this is, aside from Bound, obviously this is the jumping off point for their career, and their career's been very weird since then.
Yeah, it hasn't been very
Yeah.
successful at all. This is the
No.
greatest thing that they did. V for Vendetta for me is probably the next best thing
Yeah.
that they did. But yeah, I mean, it's a bummer because, like I said, this script is one of the greatest things that I've seen, and when I was a kid, this
Yeah.
was the most mind-blowing movie I'd ever seen.
Well, we talked about this morning from a science fiction point of view. It's obviously got a lot of very interesting concepts. Enough that
Yeah.
as kids and as young people who weren't familiar with this whole cyberpunk and like cyber Buddhism, whatever you want to call it, because I'm not familiar enough with like all the source material to even really give it a correct name.
Right.
But we weren't familiar with that, so this movie was totally mind blowing. I mean, this movie. everything from as simple as like, you know, Plato and like just being in the cave and what is real,
Right.
to, you know, its references to religion, to sort of like you're being reborn and you are the one, and Christianity. Like it plays on so many different things.
So many things. Like Descartes, you got the Odyssey, you have Alice in Wonderland, it's Dark City, 2001: Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
This list goes on for like 10 minutes.
So there's a lot of source material is weaved in. You see in the beginning when he opens the book, and it's got like the discs inside. That's like, what is that, like the solemn and the
It's called
simulacrum.
Yeah, Simulacra and Simulation, and they were all required to read that.
Yeah,
for
and
them.
Desert of the Real is another one that I think is on his shelf or shows up somewhere. That's another one that is
Morpheus uses it to describe the
desert. Welcome to the Desert of the Real is what he says, right? Yeah, so that stuff is all pretty interesting. So it's cool that like they just like sort of found their moment, and especially if you think about 1999, there had been a big push in Western culture to familiarize ourselves with anime and with manga in that time.
Right.
You know, Princess Mononoke was huge, and Akira had been big.
Ghost in
10
the
years
Shell.
ago.
Carried away.
Ghost in a Shell, and that's, you know, Ghost in a Shell is one of the big ones. Apparently, when they spoke to Joel Silver, who was one of the producers on the film, they showed him Ghost in a Shell, and they basically said, we want to do that, but real.
But yeah,
you know,
but for real.
We want to make this cartoon, but actually. So, and it's funny too, because I remember reading the comic book, the manga of Ghost in a Shell, I believe. Yeah, I definitely watched the anime, but I feel like there was a comic book too. I think it's both.
Yeah, I never saw it. I know it was anyone who liked that genre. It was probably the pinnacle of.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the greatest sort of manga.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. Obviously, I mean, this movie came out 16 years ago, so I must have read this 18 years ago if I read it. But in any case, I do recall at the time it was super, super innovative. It feels like so much has happened since this movie came out. This genre in general is almost like diluted now. It doesn't get discussed in the same way with the same sort of groundbreaking, like...
Yeah, I mean, people are incredibly familiarized with
the
it
space
now.
has been explored now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're not as fascinated by the idea of like alternate reality anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I did think about something generation to generation going all the way back to the 60s. Every like 7 to 10 years, there's been a film that really discusses the relationship between like mankind, artificial intelligence, and then their roles within like sort of alternate reality or displacement of time, something that isn't necessarily exactly happening as you perceive it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so if you look all the way back to 2001: Space Odyssey, which is in the late 60s, right? That's you have artificial intelligence, you're out in space, so it's very much not grounded in reality. It's sort of it's like something weird is happening. You kind of move forward to just the beginning of the 80s, and you have Blade Runner. You know, Blade Runner is another one of these ones. It's Do Androids Dream of Electricity? It's Philip K. Dick. You know, that's... People reference that source material with this movie all the time. You go a little like further into the 80s, you get the Terminator 2 in 1991. Groundbreaking film, artificial intelligence, time travel. We're dealing with a reality that doesn't necessarily have to exist. Jump forward to The Matrix, 1999. You look at Inception in 2006. These are all movies that deal with the same kind of thing, same themes, and they're always popular, and they're always fascinating for people to discuss it sort of in talking points. You know, it makes you think, are we going to see another one soon? Or I suppose Ex Machina maybe just came out. That maybe would be the closest thing. People were pretty into that movie. I didn't actually get to see it yet.
Yeah, I haven't either.
In any case, so talking about just the Wachowski brothers or the Wachowskis as they are now, their career ended up after this film. They did a couple more Matrix movies. They ended up doing V for Vendetta, Speed Racer, Jupiter Ascending, Cloud Atlas. Mostly flops.
Yeah.
Haven't seen a lot of those.
Yeah, I mean, Speed Racer is considered like the worst movie of all time.
Yeah.
So, or one of them.
Yeah, they have a fascination clearly with comic books and science fiction.
Right.
It's very cool that they were able to find so much financial success early on. They have the freedom to do what they want.
Yeah.
Concept movies and
Oh, absolutely.
make them happen.
Well, and despite their lack of success in the later part of their career, they still did things that I would never, despite all the bad movies, the good ones that they did make, I would never change that for anything.
Well, and I'd give anybody who does a movie like Jupiter Ascending or Cloud Atlas a ton of credit, because it's very innovative, and you're trying to do something interesting. You're trying to come up with an original concept or think outside the box, you're trying to challenge us visually and make us think, which is far. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love John Wick to death, but I mean, it's more interesting than a movie where the expectation is exactly what you get, even if it's executed as well as John Wick was, which is,
right.
As my brother said this morning when complaining, it's basically you're just getting to play a video game, except you're watching it happen.
Yeah,
that's
all it really is.
Which is cool and awesome, and I love that movie. We'll do it on the show. Like, I think it's a huge success for that reason, but it's never going to be satisfying in the same way that if Cloud Atlas was to work. Maybe you think it does work. Then
never saw it.
Then yell at us.
How long is Cloud Atlas?
Long.
4 or 5 hours?
No, really?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I think it's pretty long. Though.
At least 3+, I think.
Yeah. In any case,
someone else just said that they really love Cloud Atlas. So
it's Cloud Atlas. I mean, I know it.
I think you love it or hate it. Maybe one of those.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Jupiter Ascending has its proponents as well, because anything when you're dealing with interesting concepts and cool visuals, you will always be people that love it. You know what I mean? Just because you're giving us something interesting.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit about the producers and people involved. So as we mentioned, Bruce Berman,
my boy,
kind of our favorite. He's kind of a guy we happened upon Berman, I think, when we were originally looking up Edge of Tomorrow, and realized that his filmography is just absurd. I mean, like there's 76 credits. Some of the ones just on the list here: American Sniper, Mystic River, Ocean's 11, The Matrix, Training Day. He's been involved in a huge amount of very financially successful and quality movies for the most part. He is number 2 all time as an executive producer on earnings with $13,539,766,344.
That's it?
What?
Wow.
That's it?
13 billion?
13 billion? This one guy, that's it?
That's all?
Good work.
I don't want to talk about this loser anymore.
Yeah, he's the CEO of Village Roadshow Pictures, and we have a sweet picture of him we can show.
Yeah, we do.
Because I think he's just
there he is.
absolute.
Oh, there he is.
He's just an absolute boss.
The glasses fit his head perfectly.
I like that. I like that we can pick Bruce Berman out of a lineup now.
Oh, totally.
Enough to the point that if we're ever at like a festival or something like that, and like most people are gonna be like, "Oh my God, it's Johnny Depp!"
Like, "Oh my God, it's Bruce Berman!"
Like, Andrew, it's the Burn. Get over, Bruce. It's gonna be a huge hug.
Nope.
Like security.
Side note is a little similarity to Chris Berman. Any
No, we talked about how sweet it would be if they were brothers. Actually,
they almost could be though. Well, Chris Berman could be his older brother, maybe younger.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I heard a great story about Chris Berman the other day. And I don't know if any of you guys play fantasy football or like sports. All three of us are huge fans. There's a fantasy football league at ESPN they call the War Room League, and it's 16 of them, 16 teams, is a huge league size. It's very competitive, and apparently they have a viewing room where they all go to watch the games, and it's assigned seating because there's so many of them. And Berman has the front and center seat. He's placed right in front.
The Godfather.
Like Matthew Berry's gone off the side. Field Yates, who's like the sort of like new support on the fan, he's off in the corner. I thought that was pretty funny. Like the idea of Berman sort of being the grand chancellor.
He's earned it, man. He's been around.
Schefter kind of up front as well. Joel Silver, this is the third week in a row I think we're doing a Silver movie.
Yeah, we've talked about him quite a bit.
Wow.
Probably don't need to talk about him much at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's, obviously we want to treat this as if it's a new listener, new viewer every time. So anybody who's unfamiliar with Joel Silver, he is a linchpin of 80s action, alongside sort of Jerry Bruckheimer as the two godfathers of 80s, 90s action films. Mm-hmm. Silver's major involvement in movies like Top Gun, Die Hard, the Lethal Weapon franchise. He's one of the reviews I think we're going to reference later references the Silver Touch, which is hundreds and hundreds of bullets. He's just a big action guy. I mean,
and he's good at what he does, and he picks good movies for the most part.
For the most part, the last 10 years have been a little tougher than they were. I mean, 80s and 90s were his biggest breakouts in terms of like sort of name brand value of his brand. His later movies actually have made a ton of money, but in any case, he was involved. He was a big supporter of the Wachowskis and what they were doing,
which was so cool because the Wachowskis, when you watch them direct on set and like the behind the scenes and the making ofs, I think it was Carrie-Anne Moss, might have been, that talked about it. She was like, usually you watch a director, he's trying to figure out a problem, he's trying to process it in his mind, he's sitting there kind of talking to himself. These two guys kind of operated as one. Like one person or two people with one mind, and like they would go through and they would do like one of them would be operating the camera just with his hands, the other guy would be like rolling around and shooting, and like it was just like two brothers hanging out making a movie, right? Which when you see on set is so awesome, and it makes everyone I think more comfortable, and it makes them kind of like it's endearing. It's very endearing as actors.
I thought it was really interesting, and again we did mention that we're not going to kind of go down the road with the whole story, but it was the second of the Wachowskis, Laurence, who became Lana later after a sex change. that happened, I think, in 07.
Yeah.
Right. So this movie came out in '99, and it's actually quite clear if you are watching any of the behind the scenes that, like, I mean, you know, with like I don't want to say it's quite clear. Like, I don't want to say he looks more feminine, but I think he does look a bit more feminine. Lana or Laurence at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting that you mentioned Switch originally was supposed to be sort of an androgynous character. And I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But it does sort of make sense that if this is someone who had been maybe struggling with this or knew this was something that was happening inside them and was moving towards that would be a character. And it's interesting they didn't decide to make her a bit more. She's clearly very female.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do understand your point.
Yeah.
I think it'd be kind of cool for that to have been in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but, you know, there's a sign of the times, I guess, maybe, you know, we've come much, much, much further as a culture. It's also interesting to think that in '99 when this was made, it took 8 more years before he was comfortable making that decision. And then you look what just happened with Caitlyn Jenner, and that's like the biggest deal in the world. It's so heralded, so discussed, you know, like so it's everywhere. Everybody's talking about that. It's such a courageous thing to do. So it's cool to see that now that's where we're at.
Yeah, and it was interesting because they weren't private about it for, like, it wasn't on purpose. It was just they're very private people.
Yeah.
So all right, we gotta move on here to box office. It looks like.
Yeah, we can talk sort of critical and box office for a second because we do want to make sure we have time to get to our recasts and our you know, ranking and all that. So maybe we'll kind of speed through this a little bit.
Sure.
Any of you that are fans of The Matrix know these movies made a tremendous amount of money. The most interesting thing here is that the budget for the first one was only $63 million.
Right.
In contrast, as we always talk about, Terminator 2 was made for $100 million in 1991.
Yeah.
And when you think about the sort of vastness of the sets, they're not that different.
No.
So
yeah, because they were originally given $10 million
Right.
and for the movie. They're like, that's all you're going to get. So they went and they took that $10 million and they shot the opening scene with Trinity. And they spent all $10 million on it. And then they're like, look at what we can do if you give us money.
Yeah.
They showed it to them. They're like, all right, fine, you get your budget.
Right.
And I'm really glad they did.
Yeah, no, it was a big opening, $27.7 million, number one movie, ended up making a total of $463 million worldwide. That's gigantic, obviously.
Incredibly successful.
Especially when you consider this is 16 years ago. You're making almost $500 million.
Yeah.
Very relevant. The further sequels is we have the box office graphic we're going to throw up on the screen here for you guys right now. This is Keanu Reeves' all-time box office numbers. 11 through 20 were all pretty bad.
Yeah, we just decided to not go there.
Yeah, so we just sort of went with the top 10, but you can see Reloaded, the sequel,
Massive.
domestically made $391 million. Yes. So that's just crazy. I'm sure the worldwide number is much larger, but you know, even adjusted, this movie making $283 million worldwide. Yeah, and that's funny, right? Matrix, Speed, Point Break doesn't even make the list, but that's because Speed. Well, I guess, yeah, Point Break was earlier. Speed just made a ton of money, I guess.
Yeah.
But, and then Revolution. So, I mean, 3 of Keanu's top 5 movies of all time are Matrix movies.
And it's funny, the massive drop off.
After this?
Yeah, it's a $200 million drop off from 2 to 3.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. People were pretty burnt out. I mean, I remember seeing the second one at midnight and falling asleep.
Everybody wanted answers after the first one.
Yeah.
It's very confusing and open to interpretation. And then they made the Reloaded that didn't answer anything and was just, not very good. And then by the third one, it was just like, this is just gibberish, kind of like, I can't even remember.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I was just like, I just watched this
happens.
because I respect the series or the franchise.
Well, by 2003, as we mentioned, now at that point, you've got X-Men sequels coming out, you've got Spider-Man coming out, you've got actual superhero movies, and the third Matrix film is basically a superhero movie. He's flying around like Superman and fighting 100 agents.
Yeah.
So it's, I think people were kind of over it, which is amazing. People are fickle. But anyway, we can talk about critical. It is interesting that on IMDb, 8.7, I guess that's not really surprising. I don't think this is the 18th greatest film of all time. It's number 18 out of 250.
I don't know,
That's where it falls, yeah.
Think about what it did.
Groundbreaking.
Think about what it did for film when it came out.
I think that The Matrix is an incredible movie, and I totally agree that it deserves to be in the top 250, even in the top 100. I would make that argument.
Even in the top 10.
18 is really, really high. That's
subjective,
that gives this movie a lot. But anyway, we don't need to. We've argued that 100 times. Rotten Tomatoes, the all rating is 87%. The top critics rating is 67%.
That's pretty surprising to me.
Yeah, very surprising.
Critically,
I feel like this movie was a little more respected than that. And then the audience rating is 85%. And again, usually movies like this that are so beloved, you'd expect this to be like 96 or
I would
something.
expect it to have like a 92 or 93 by the audience and like in the high 80s by the top critics.
Yeah, so definitely find that to be pretty surprising. But
Yeah, no, like very, very, very surprising, and it won 4 Oscars. You know, obviously they're all technical,
Right.
But they were deserved. You know, sound editing, film editing, effects, visual effects, all that.
yeah, there was I remember I mentioned that one review with the silver thing, right? It was Sean Means from Films.com. The Matrix serves up so much visual wizardry and thought-provoking ideas that even the inevitable silver touch, a finale with more bullets than the opening of Saving Private Ryan, can't destroy the magic. Which I think is it's a solid review. But it's funny, the flip side of it.
Yeah, so Stephen Rosen from the Denver Post says The Matrix not only is a failure as a science fiction movie, really, long on explanation, short on inspiration, but it doesn't do anything interesting with the futuristic vision that it takes forever to explain.
Yeah.
Really? Like, really?
He didn't get it.
You just didn't get it.
No.
I kind of see that though, because they do explain it, but then, like I said, there's no answers. You're just left kind of like,
Yeah.
so where do they go? I mean,
Right.
the humans
What
are
now?
living at the center of the earth in a city, and
Right.
what happens if they defeat the machines? Like, the world's destroyed. I mean,
Yeah.
Well,
wouldn't you be better off just living in the Matrix almost at that point?
and again, this is why I feel like this should not have been a franchise.
Sequel, yeah.
Is that if the end of this movie, for me, I would have just been happy to walk away from that.
Yeah.
Like, the agent is dead. The bad guy's dead. They found the one. They can fix everything now.
Right.
The world can be rebuilt.
Totally.
Yeah, we'll just imagine.
Yeah, exactly.
Great ending, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Rage
very
Against
good
the Machine.
ending. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a really good
Phone
ending.
call, and then he flies.
Yeah, the first one should have been it. So we have a behind the scenes video. I think we can all kind of agree the ultimate action scene is the lobby.
It's the lobby scene.
It's kind of like that is an ultimate action scene. Like
Yeah.
that's
true action. Like
The lobby scene is...
yeah, we're a little short on time, so I think rather than showing the scene itself, actually we should show we have a little behind the scenes video we pulled.
Yeah.
I want to be able to show that. It's cool. You can kind of see what we were talking about. A lot of people were injured in the making of this movie.
A lot of people.
A lot of stuntmen had broken ribs, broken knees. You know, you had Hugo Weaving had to get a hip surgery during the film from injuring himself. But it's cool. You can see Keanu falling over while trying to round a corner and all kinds of fun stuff. So
yeah, I mean it's real life.
yeah, you can see the Wachowskis. So yeah, we can kind of leave this in the background while we discuss the rest of this. I don't think discussing the only other scenes to me, action scenes that come to mind that are just
Two.
ultimate. The opening is really cool.
Oh, okay.
And I also think that the fight in the subway.
That's the other one.
Yeah,
That's like
definitely.
the climax of the
Yeah.
two
Yeah.
the hero and the villain.
And I love that scene. He's
It's
starting
a
to
great
breathe.
scene.
It's great.
It's
yeah.
amazing. The shots, like the shots that pay tribute to anime, and then I think that the dojo scene is another
It's very
great
cool.
action scene.
Yeah, I would agree. It's a very good scene.
Which they built specifically just for that scene, just for this movie.
yeah, because they were gonna
Brand new set.
Yeah, the dojo. Yeah,
Yeah.
they were gonna, and I think the subway scene. What I read is they were originally gonna shoot it in a real subway, but they needed to destroy too much of it, and there was too much
Yeah.
like trains moving and all that. It was
Foot
too
traffic, all that stuff.
too hard to get it cleared out to shoot that. So yeah, I think we can sort of sound off on our last bit of the show here with our favorite lines and whatnot and recasting. Do you guys have some favorite lines you pulled that were your favorites?
Well, guns. We need guns. Lots of guns.
Yeah.
It's always been one of my
Lots of
favorites.
guns.
Yeah, it epitomizes Keanu Reeves too.
Yeah.
Just his delivery.
My comedy one is "God damn you, Cypher."
Yeah, I know,
Me
right?
and my roommates used to always yell at each other.
I started laughing when she says
Eat
it.
each other's food. Yeah.
God damn you, Cypher.
And then the other one is, do you think that me being faster or stronger has anything to do with my muscles in this place? He's like, no. Do you think that's air you're breathing? Because I remember watching that as a kid, I was like, holy shit.
Whoa.
It's not air.
Just so you said it actually just made me think of another great voice. I didn't use this as my recast, but Dennis Haysbert, the president from 24. I actually had a
Really?
shot at playing this in a recast, just because he has a good deep voice. But I don't know if I would have believed him as much.
The amount of people that turned down working on this movie for crap is just beyond me.
It's innovative people. I mean, it's
Will Smith did Wild Wild West. Gillian Anderson and David Duchovny both did The X-Files.
and Joel Silver got to use his giant robotic spider that he wanted in the Kevin Smith Superman script
Exactly.
that didn't show up in Wild Wild West. So look at that. It all came full circle.
Yeah,
Boom.
it's crazy.
Yeah, I think my favorite line. I had a really hard time picking one, but I basically every time that Smith is on screen, every single time Hugo
it's
Weaving talks,
incredible.
I think is the best part of the movie for me. So like just everything he's saying, like I mean, aside from just saying Mr. Anderson over and over again, I just like all of his deliveries. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
He's great.
The speech that he gives to Fishburne when he's interrogating him is probably the best dramatic part of the whole movie for me.
I even just like his simple stuff, the off-the-cuff stuff, like when he walks in and he's just like, in one world, you're Thomas Anderson.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's just great. I get totally into it. So I think that's sort of my answer to that question. Do we think the heroes and villains rank on our all-time lists?
Of course they do.
100%, right?
Yeah, way up
I
there.
was like, how do you even ask that question?
Yeah, I think they definitely do. Do you want to do anyone
I
want to jump in?
I want Damon to go first.
Yeah, obviously you don't have
a
your
list,
own
but-
personal list. You have sort of ours here in a very small document. But you can
I think Agent Smith is great, as you said.
Yeah.
He really is. Yeah, just good. He's a good presence on screen, and then Neo as well. You gotta put him in there somewhere. It's hard to just.
Eyeball it. I
totally.
know. What do you think, Drew?
That's tough, man. That's real tough. I think I gotta put Neo at 5.
Heroes? Number 5?
Number 5.
Way up there.
Way
Wow.
up there. In front of Ripley, in front of Bourne, in front of Dutch.
In front of Dutch.
Yeah, I think he's number 5 because this is one of the greatest heroes of our generation. Like, this movie, again, blew everyone's minds. Neo he's the one. He's the one.
The one.
Okay?
That's the one.
But not number one.
Not
Maybe
number one.
Number
He's,
5.
he's the 5. And then for Smith is really good.
Smith's really
He's
good.
really, really good. I think I gotta put him at 6. You can go on Agent Smith, number 6, right behind
Davian?
Owen Davian, who I just have this
Yeah, well, we both
absurd love with.
PSH. She's the greatest.
And then Commodus.
Yeah, Commodus. I'm going to go 7 on my hero. I'm going to put him 1 spot ahead of John Rambo.
Okay.
But he's still behind Jason Bourne for me, Neo. And for my
You're
villain...
gonna give me crap for saying 5, and you're gonna say 7.
Well, he's not ahead of Dutch for me, so there's no crap involved.
No one's ahead of Dutch for you.
That's just
One person is. We just haven't figured out who it is yet.
Maximus.
My villain. So you said you put him ahead of. You put him at 6.
I put him at 6.
Okay, and I'm gonna put. Man, this is tough. Is he better or worse than Davian? He's better than Davian. He's 4.
He's 4. I almost thought about it.
He's 1 better.
Yeah.
I do love Davian. I think he's fantastic, but I just think Agent Smith is so memorable. He's so iconic in
Yeah.
this one. In Matrix. But anyway, we are a little short on time, so I want to move into our recast quickly here. Anybody who has an opinion on those rankings can let us know, can argue with us. So once again, feel free to tweet at us or let us know what you think. We have 4 minutes to wrap this, so we gotta go quickly. Let's talk about recasting the 5 major roles. You have Keanu.
We started so late.
Yeah.
I feel
No,
sad.
it's fine. Let's just move through it so we can get our stuff in. So Keanu, Laurence Fishburne, Carrie-Anne Moss, Hugo Weaving, and Joe Pantoliano. Let's do them one character at a time. Who we have, and we obviously don't have a long time, so maybe like a quick 5 to 10 second explanation.
Bottom to top.
Yeah, let's go with Joe Pantoliano first. Your Cypher. Who do you got?
I got John Leguizamo, actually.
It's good. Similar
So
voice.
funny.
Yeah,
I like it.
similar look.
I like it.
Can think of him in some other roles.
I almost did Luis Guzman, but I did not.
It's very good.
I have 2. So one is the guy that plays the role of Cypher, which is the disciple turned rogue that wants out. And then I have the young kid that got pulled out of the Matrix that decided that he doesn't want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
He wants back in. So for old, I went Simon Pegg.
Okay.
And for young, I went Josh Hutcherson.
I like it.
Yeah.
This would be sort of the official shit weasel. We talk about the shit weasel on the
He's
show.
the
a lot.
shit weasel.
Yeah, I think
sure.
Shit weasel.
Pantoliano is definitely the shit weasel. I went with Fred Armisen. I think he has the dramatic chops to be kind of funky and funny, and I like it. I think he'd be good.
Yeah.
So let's move on. Hugo Weaving. What do you guys got?
I have Vincent D'Onofrio.
I love it.
If anyone's seen the Daredevil miniseries,
D'Onofrio.
I'm a big fan of that choice.
I have
He
a
does
lot of
have
love for the character.
I think he could pull it off. He's
Yeah, no, he's
hurt
good.
me.
Because he can fight. You see it.
Yeah.
You see it in Daredevil.
He's-
I went Benicio del Toro
Oh, that's very good.
because he's a savage.
He's a
Like the
stone
dude can
cold
do
badass.
anything. He's an incredible actor,
Yeah.
and he could be evil.
He's good.
ooh yeah.
This is funny. I went with Hugo Weaving. I actually don't
That's
think
funny.
that
I actually thought of doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't think the age of the character
55 years old.
makes a difference. I think he could just as easily be 55 and they just
Yeah.
choreograph it and,
Yeah,
So,
totally.
yeah. What do you guys got for Carrie-Anne Moss?
Emily Blunt.
Yeah.
I
thought about it.
Hard to miss.
She's incredible. I mean, she's the right age too.
Like, there's like this group of women that, and I think you're using one of them that
Yep.
is just like, I want them to be every role.
They're in all of them. These movies, yeah.
Absolutely.
I have Natalie Portman.
Exactly.
I think she'd be good.
So good.
And
So
I mean,
good.
V for Vendetta, she plays. It's another Wachowski
badass.
brothers, so would be an easy.
She's really good for that. Yeah, I went
Easy
with
swap.
Kate Beckinsale. She's 42 now and looks like she's 28 still.
Smoking hot.
I think Big Kate Beckinsale could do it.
I watched Click the other day.
Yeah,
I love her.
very attractive. Okay, Laurence Fishburne. Who do we got?
I have Sean Bean.
It's really good.
That's a good one.
I like Sean Bean.
that.
I tried to take the hobbits. I tried to take it from him. I'm sorry.
Edward Stark.
Yeah.
He just seems like he'd pull it off.
Ed Odd, yeah.
Kind of rugged look.
I love him.
Can fight too.
Yeah, Trevelyan.
You know who I think that can fight?
Who?
Liam Neeson. Ducard.
I thought about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Liam Neeson.
be great.
He's good.
I know.
I gender shifted. I went with Sigourney Weaver.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's a badass. She's the right age. I like it because she's older enough than Kate Beckinsale's character would play that I think there could be sort of like a mother-daughter sort of dynamic.
Who was your Agent Smith?
Hugo Weaving.
So you want to see Hugo Weaving fight hand-to-hand combat against Sigourney Weaver?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
I don't know.
I think they could do it.
I think they could too. We just need a couple walkers.
Sigourney Weaver would have like short hair. All right, let's go.
I just got to throw in real quick that I was considering Anthony Anderson as
Yeah.
the recast
Yeah,
just because of the facial similarity.
One of my favorites. Keanu Reeves, guys. Neo. Who's our Neo?
Go ahead.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I just in
very good.
Inception. I think he'd pull it off. I think
He's good in Looper.
Probably a little bit better of an actor, maybe.
Definitely.
We'll call him different.
I don't know if he could quite
We'll call
have
him
that
different.
awesome, monotone delivery, but
We'd have the same. Yeah.
I think he would. I think he would do well.
Yeah, I like him.
Please. Because mine's the best, so I gotta wait.
Oh, really?
yeah.
As I said earlier, I think that it's the most perfectly cast role ever. It's very difficult to recast correctly, so I went with Garrett Hedlund. I like him a lot. I think he would be correct for this. He sort of has the lack of personality enough in the deep voice.
Right.
He could pull off the action stuff.
I went with someone that's in basically the exact same part of their career. Super big A-list, bunch of bad rom-coms, did some things that were whatever.
Gerard Butler?
No.
Oh.
Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, interesting.
Everyone
Solid
had given
pull.
up
on Ryan Reynolds.
on Ryan Reynolds
Green
now,
Lantern.
and people had given up on Keanu Reeves kind of at this point too.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's a good one. I wonder if... Yeah, I mean, Keanu Reeves, they're kind of bad actors in the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. I like it. All right, guys, the final thing we talk about here is which of the three categories this fits into. And there are three action movie categories in our opinion. There's totally legitimate, which is, I guess these days we use The Fugitive as the example, or Terminator 2. We use totally ridiculous, which is like Con Air or Face Off, like falls off a cliff of kind of absurd.
Right.
And then we use ridiculously, what is it? Ridiculously legitimate. I always get those two mixed up. And that's The Rock or Point Break or The Speed or something. It's kind of a movie, a combination of campy and strong performances. It's very engaging, but it doesn't lose you ever completely by being too absurd. Which of the three categories is The Matrix? Quickly before we have to sign off and give away a mug here.
Ridiculously legitimate all the way for me. Definitely. It's
The middle category.
not totally legitimate.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it that's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, Keanu Reeves is the lead, so it's hard to.
Yeah.
But that's mine.
No, you please.
Totally legit.
Okay.
Totally legit. I think that there's some unintentional comedy here, but very, very little. And for the most part, this movie still succeeds dramatically for me. I'm totally engaged. Even like scary stuff or the gory stuff, like the little bug in his stomach.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff very cool. So I think it still works.
Yeah, I actually agree. I was surprised because I didn't think so, but this movie to me is totally legitimate.
Yeah.
I totally understand the argument for being ridiculously legitimate. It's like on the line.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just right above it.
Probably not one we can use as an example, but
Definitely not.
yeah, but it's pretty close. It's interesting, yeah. Excellent. So we are going to give away a mug here because we have been getting ratings and reviews from you guys, and you're awesome. And MasterShake28 on iTunes. That is your username. We're going to be getting you a mug along with Brian Hurst and our first one, JFL or I should have written it down. You guys are all going to get mugs. Just check into this and let us know that you heard us say it. That will do it for Action Movie Anatomy, the Matrix edition.
Awesome. A lot of fun, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming, man.
First one in the studio. So thank you guys for checking out the episode and be here next week. I'm not sure what movie we're doing just yet. We have to figure that out.
Lake House.
Wow.
Doing the Lake House.
Strong move.
Damon Leachman, if they want to find Damon Leachman, he's a creature of the night.
Can't find me.
They can stalk him. I'm not sure how they'd find you. Andrew Ghai, if
Good
people
luck.
wanted to find you, where they can find you.
You can find me at Andrew Ghai on Twitter.
And if you guys want to find me, you can find me at Twitter and Instagram at Ben Bateman Media. We will see you next week.
Goodbye.
Welcome to the Popcorn Talk Network, for the online broadcast network that features movie discussion, news, and interviews. Press 1. Popcorn Talk.
Well, that's what it's going to be today. What?
What the hell just happened?
Are you okay?
I think he's finally cracked.
No.